Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, 7C proudly welcomes you to the Wrestling Time Machine. Thank you for joining me as I do this weekly timeline podcast showing the history of professional wrestling, how it's supposed to be. I thank you to all my subscribers on YouTube and on BitChute. I also want to thank you to all my support that I'm getting from the legendary Heels of Wrestling group on Facebook. I hope that you'll continue to support me and my show. To me, it is important because of several reasons. One, nobody is doing a show like this. Nobody's concentrating on the 70s and 80s like I am as a Wrestling Time podcast. Two, there's a lot of people out there that are just learning about, well, how come old school wrestling's better than today's wrestling? Well, this gives an opportunity to not only teach those who haven't seen, but to also teach you about people you may have heard of, but you never even knew that they wrestled in certain areas or faced certain opponents. Three, a lot of relatives have heard that their relatives are professional wrestlers, but they don't know much about them. So this is the Timeline Podcast that anybody who wanted to know about a certain wrestler can listen to and enjoy and learn more about their career. I guarantee that even a wrestling historian, if they watch my show, will learn something, because I do a lot of extensive research on my shows, and to me it's very important to the wrestling community, especially now in today's wrestling, as all the debate goes between those that love the old school version and those today that never seen an old school match and really could care less about it. Hopefully, especially with my Wrestling 80 series, I try to show what it is that we enjoy as fans so much. Thank you very much. Alright, so here we go. I believe this is the 11th episode of the Wrestling Time Machine. When I started this podcast over 2.5 months ago. I'm now talking about March 15th, 1970 to March 21st, 1970, which means next week on the 12th episode of the Time Machine, which is going to be funny because they always say that 12 is the average of podcasts. Those who make episodes 12 usually, for the average amount, die down after that. And here we go this week as I'm going to the 11th episode of the Wrestling Time Machine, as well as the 7th episode of Wrestling 80. Well, I don't have any cards for March 15th, 1970, so we're going to have to start on March 16th, 1970 for the Western States Territory in El Paso, Texas. Roy Klein defeated Eduardo Da Lynch. Jerry Kozak defeated Nortino Pico. In a mask versus mask match, Mr. Wrestling defeated the Destroyer, who was unmasked as Doug Lindsay. Rufus R. Jones and Ricky Romero teamed up and they defeated Apache Gringo and Bull Ramos. March 16, 1970, in Big Spring, Texas for the Western States promotion. Bobby Duncombe fought a draw with the Lawman, Don Slatton. Salvatore Dominguez defeated Mr. X. Gorgeous George Jr. defeated Bobby Duncombe and Bobby Lane in a handicap match. And in Texas Death Match, Western States champion The Beast fought a no contest with Terry Funk. Big Time Wrestling to feature World Class Fort Worth, Texas on March 16, 1970, as Killer Carl Cox and Boris Malenko defeated Tony Pug and Wahoo McDaniel. Nick Kozak defeated Benji Ramirez. Lord Charles Montalog defeated Cyclone Soto. Eduardo Perez defeated Emil Dupree, and Mike Paduas defeated Juan Sebastian. Florida Championship Wrestling, Sarasota, Florida on March 16, 1970. The Spoiler teamed up with the Blue Demons, and they faced off with Jose Lothario, Man Mountain Mike, and Sam Steamboat. Bob Roop faced off with Mr. Saito. Duke Kiyomoka against Jack Welch. Jim Dalton against Jose Betancourt. Sabu Singh against Al Velasco. March 16, 1970 in Orlando, Florida. In a cage match, the Missouri Mauler defeated Hiro Matsuda. Southern champion Bob Orton defeated Professor Dale Lewis by disqualification. Jack Briscoe defeated Jack Briscoe teamed with Louis Tilley to defeat Bronco Lubitsch and Chris Markoff by disqualification. Sam Steamboat and Thunderbolt Patterson defeated Carl Krauser and Skull von Stroheim. Dan Miller defeated Aldo Bagni. Moving on to the AWA territory on March 16th in Chicago, Illinois, as the Chain Gang, Jack and Jim Dillinger defeated Dick the Bruiser and Moose Cholak. Crusher defeated Mad Dog Vachon. Baron Von Rashka defeated Red Bastien. Edward Carpentier defeated Luke Graham. Pepper Gomez defeated Larry the Axe Hennig. Blackjack Lanza fought a draw with Billy Red Lyons. Alright, March 16th, 1970 for Lethbridge, Alberta for the Stampede Territory. North American champion Abdullah the Butcher faced off with Bill Dromo. Jerry Christie faced Gil Hayes. Dave Rule versus Crazy Legs Leroy Hirsch. Wayne Coleman, for all those who watch the show, know as Superstar Billy Graham, and Angelo Mosca against Gordon Ivy and Dan Crawford. Bob Luke against Bob Christie. March 16, 1970, Allentown, Pennsylvania, for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Gene Dubois fought a draw with Eric the Red. Killer Kowalski defeated Arnold Skoland. Walter Von Erich defeated Joe Turco. Mario Milano defeated Professor Toru Tanaka by disqualification. And Russian Bear Ivan Koloff defeated Victor Rivera. Moving on to the 17th of March, 1970, we're going to start off with Dallas, Texas. Big Time Wrestling to feature World Class Championship Wrestling, as Johnny Valentine defeated Mil Mascaras by the countout. Wahoo McDaniel defeated Killer Carl Cox. Joe Blanchard, Tully's dad, defeated Cyclone Soto. Boris Malenko defeated Emile Dupree. Little Beaver defeated Billy Colt. And Lord Charles Montalag defeated Nick Kozak. Macon, Georgia on March 17, 1970. Bullet Bob Armstrong defeated Pancho Rosario. Black Venus defeated Congo Cat. Boxing match, Greg Peterson defeated Alex Perez. Joe Scarpa, the later Chief J Strongbow, and the Mongol won the Macon Tag Team titles from Buddy Colt and Homer Rodale in the first title change we have this week. Moving on, March 17, 1970, Fort Myers, Florida. In a Texas death match, Carl Krauser and Skull von Stroheim defeated Sabu Singh and Al Velasco. And once again, everybody, Sabu Singh is better known to us as Jorge Gonzalez or Invader 1. Handicap match, Man Mountain Mike defeated the Blue Demons by a countout. Darling Dagmar defeated Diamond Lil. And Jack and Roy Welch defeated Dr. Blood and Spaceman Frank Hickey. March 17, 1970, Tampa, Florida. In a brass knuckles champion, Missouri Mauler defeated Bob Orton. Jack Briscoe and Danny Miller teamed up to defeat Bronco Lubitsch and Chris Markoff. Bob Roop defeated Professor Dale Lewis by disqualification. Sam Steamboat and Thunderbolt Patterson defeated Mr. Saito and Hiro Matsuda. Jose Lothario defeated Duke Giamoka. Sandy Parker over Fran Gravette. And Louis Tilley defeated Jim Dalton. Stampede Territory, Medicine Hat, Alberta on March 17th. North American champion Abdullah the Butcher faced Dave Rule. Bill Dromo and Gil Hayes, who I believe was tag team champions, faced off with Bobby and Jerry Christie. Wayne Coleman against Dan Crawford, and Stu Hart once again shows up to team with Bob Luke to defeat Crazy Boy Leroy Hirsch and Angelo Mosca. March 18th, 1970, Los Angeles, California. Let's start with NWA territory as Pepe Lopez fought a draw with Greg Kojika. Freddie Blassie defeated Barbarian Boy Harry. La Pantera Negra and Tony Rocco defeated the Mysterious X and Magnificent Maurice. Rocky Johnson defeated the Miami Mauler. Antonio Inoki fought a draw with Don Carson. And Black Gordman defeated Barbarian Boy Rudy. March 18, 1970, in Lubbock, Texas, for the Western States Territory, as Bobby Duncombe defeated Roy Klein. Rufus R. Jones defeated Bad Boy Billy Spears. Salvatore Dominguez and Jerry Kozak teamed up to defeat Bobby Duncombe and Bobby Lane. Mass versus Mass match as Mr. Wrestling Gordon Nelson defeated Destroyer, unmasking him as Doug Lindsay. And in a 2 out of 3 falls match, NWA Heavyweight Champion Dory Funk Jr. defeated the Western States Champion, The Beast. March 18, 1970, Honolulu, Hawaii. Pedro Morales of Binkai Lee defeated Mitsu Arakawa and Kenji Shibuya. Handsome Johnny Barron and Ripper Collins fought a draw with Shushi Giant Baba and Seiji Sakaguchi, and Les Roberts fought a draw with Bad Boy Billy Shields. March 18, 1970, Miami Beach, Florida. Jack Briscoe and Hiro Matsuda defeated Dale Lewis and Missouri Mahler by disqualification. Southern champion Bob Orton Sr. defeated Chris Markoff. Danny Miller defeated Bronco Lubitsch. Sam Steamboat defeated Jim Dalton. Darling Dagmar over Diamond Lil. And the Blue Demons defeated Jose Lothario and Al Velasco. March 18, 1970, Saskatchewan, Saskatoon for the Stampede Territory. North American champion Abdullah the Butcher defeated Bill Dromo. Bob Luke and the Mighty Ursus teamed up and defeated Wayne Coleman and Angelo Mosca. Gordon Ivy defeated Dave Rule by disqualification. Gil Hayes defeated Jerry Christie by disqualification. And Bobby Christie defeated Dan Crawford. March 18, 1970, Brainerd, Minnesota, AWA Territory. In a 2 out of 3 falls match, Crusher defeated Butcher Vachon. 2 out of 3 falls match, Red Bastien defeated Lars Anderson. And Blackjack Lanza defeated Bob Brunel with a bulldog. And we'll finish up the 18th of March in Lowell, Massachusetts for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Gene Dubois fought a draw with Eric the Red. Waldo Von Erich defeated Arnold Skoland. Joe Turco defeated Lou Albano. Professor Toru Tanaka defeated Victor Rivera by disqualification. Karl Kovacs fought a double disqualification with Ivan Koloff. And Mario Milano defeated Killer Kowalski by countout. Let's start the 19th of March off in Bakersfield, California for the NWA LA Territory. Antonio Inoki was in town to defeat the Mysterious X. Jamaica Kid defeated Frenchy Lamont. Freddie Blassie defeated Pepe Lopez. And 2 out of 3 falls match, Pacific Coast champion La Pantera Negra defeated Black Gordman. March 19, 1970, Western States Territory in Amarillo, Texas, home of the Funks. Rufus R. Jones defeated Bobby Lane. Salvatore Dominguez defeated Apache Gringo. Ricky Romero defeated Bobby Duncombe. In a mass versus mass match, Mr. Wrestling Gordon Nelson defeated the Destroyer by disqualification. Now I'm unclear at this point if he had to take off his mask. He had been, as we know, leading up to Amarillo, being forced to unmask as Doug Lindsay. Western States Champion The Beast fought a no contest with Terry Funk. And Texas Deathmatch, Bull Ramos defeated Gorgeous George Jr. NWF, Cleveland, Ohio on March 19th. Ivan Kalmakoff fought a draw with Mike Loren. Lou Klein defeated Big Bad John by disqualification. Hans Schmidt defeated John Vallon, which of course it will be future Johnny Valiant. Fred Curry and Mighty Igor defeated the Fabulous Kangaroos of Al Costello and Don Kent. NWF Heavyweight Champion Bulldog Dick Brower defeated Johnny Powers. And The Sheik defeated Haystacks Calhoun by disqualification. March 19, 1970, Jacksonville, Florida. Missouri Mahler defeated Man Mountain Mike. Southern Champion Bob Orton defeated Professor Dale Lewis. Jack Briscoe defeated Chris Markoff. Dickie Steinborn defeated Carl von Stroheim. Sandy Parker and Sabu Singh defeated Jim Dalton and Fran Gravett. Argentina Apollo and Jose Lothario teamed up to defeat Branko Lubic and Aldo Bagni. March 19, 1970, Winona, Minnesota for the AWA territory. Red Bastien and Bob Brunel defeated Blackjack Lanza and Butcher Vachon by disqualification, and Lars Anderson also defeated Bob Brunel. March 19, 1970, Regina, Saskatchewan for Stampede territory. As North American champion, Abdullah the Butcher defeated Bill Dromo. Bob Luke and Mighty Ursus defeated Wayne Coleman and Angelo Mosca. Dave Rule defeated Gordon Ivy. Bobby Christie fought a no contest with Gil Hayes. And Jerry Christie defeated Dan Crawford. And let's finish off the 19th of March in Washington, D.C. with Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Lee Wong defeated Lou Albano. Arnold Skolin defeated Angelo Savoldi. Waldo Von Erich defeated Gene Dubois. Mario Milano and Victor Rivera teamed up to defeat Ivan Koloff and Professor Toru Tanaka by disqualification. The Fabulous Moolah teamed up with Tony Rose to defeat Mary Little and Sonia Helm. Joe Turco defeated Miguel Feliciano. And Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion Bruno Sammartino fought a draw with Ivan Koloff. March 20th, 1970, Los Angeles, California. The Great Kojika defeated Pepe Lopez. Antonio Inoki defeated Miami Mahler. Tony Rocco defeated Don Carson. Billy the Kid and French Lamont defeated Cowboy Bradley and Jamaica Kid. Pacific Coast champion La Pantera Negra defeated Black Gordman. And America's champion Freddie Blassie fought a no contest with Rocky Johnson. March 20th, 1970, St. Louis, Missouri. Pat O'Connor defeated Baron von Raschke. In a handicap match, Jack Briscoe and Wilbur Snyder teamed up to defeat Blackjack Lanza. The Crimson Knight, who was Big Bill Miller underneath that mask, defeated Bob Windham, who we know is the real name of Blackjack Mulligan. Dick DeBruiser defeated Buddy Smith. Ernie Ladd and Dewey Robinson, the future missing link, goes on to defeat Lars Anderson and Moose Cholek. Roger Kirby fought a draw with Tommy Martin. Ronnie Etchinson defeated Angelo Poffo, the father of Lanny Poffo and Randy Savage, by disqualification, otherwise known later in ICW as the Miser, which I've been showed last week on Russ My Series Wrestling 80. Jessica Rogers and Betty Nicolai defeated Linda Klein and Barba Galento. March 20th, 1970, Atlanta, Georgia. Les Wolf defeated Alex Perez. Mr. Fuji and Chatty Yokuchi teamed up to defeat Greg Peterson and Pedro Valdez. Marilyn Bender and Bobby Peterson defeated Panama Franco and Lovely Louise. Joe Scarpa, the future Chief Jay Strongbow, defeats Paul DeMarco. Nick Bockwinkel won the Georgia TV title from Mongol. And also another title change on this card, as Buddy Fuller and Ray Gunkel won the Georgia Tag Team titles from the Assassins. March 20th, 1970, Chattanooga, Tennessee sets an all-time attendance record that day, with 6,430 fans showing up to see the interns with Dr. Ken Ramey fought in no contest spoilers being managed by Saul Weinengroff. Johnny Long and Tojo Yamamoto defeated the Mighty Yankee and Mac Young. And Bob Armstrong and Bill Costello teamed up to defeat Carlos Montez and Tony Russo. So 6,430 on that day set an all-time attendance record in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Let's see a couple cards from Florida here on March 20th. We'll start with Belle Glade, Florida, as Jose Azari and Al Velasco teamed up to face Branko Lubic and Chris Markoff. Aldo Bagni against Coach John Heath. Jose Betancourt against Dr. Blood, and Porter Tinsdale against Skull Von Stroheim. Man Mountain Mike on March 20th, 1970, Tallahassee, Florida. Man Mountain Mike defeats the Missouri Mauler. Argentina Apollo and Bob Orton defeats Frank Hickey and Duke Kiyomoka. Sandy Parker defeats Fran Gravett, and Sabu Singh, of course, Invader 1 defeats Carl Krauser. March 20th, 1970, Calgary, Alberta for the Stampede territory. Mighty Ursus defeats North American champion Abdullah the Butcher by disqualification. Christian Britt defeats Jose Quintero. Dave Rule defeats Gordon Ivy. Jerry Christie defeats Gil Hayes. Wayne Coleman and Angelo Mosca defeats Bob Luke and Dan Crawford. March 20th, 1970, Omaha, Nebraska for the AEWA. In a non-title cage match, Reggie Parks and Stan Pulaski defeats AWA Tag Team Champions Butcher and Mad Dog Vachon. And of course, all cage matches in AWA are non-title. Red Bastien defeated Ali Ben Khan. Beautiful Brutus defeated Mel Turnbull and Jack Pisak over Bill Howard. One more card for the 20th of March, and that's going to be Elizabeth, New Jersey for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Eric the Red fought a draw with Arnold Skolin. Miguel Feliciano defeats Mike Conrad. Fabulous Moolah and Tony Rose defeats Kathy O'Day and Vicky Williams. Victor Rivera defeats Killer Kowalski by countout. And Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion Bruno Sammartino defeats Waldo Von Erich. Here we go. Go on to the last day of the week, March 21st, 1970. And I only got 8 more cards to read for you. So let's start with the tri-state area in Joplin, Missouri. Mr. Ota fought a draw with Red McKim. Luke Brown defeated Mr. Ito. In a 2 out of 3 falls match, Tretch Phillips defeated Bruce Kirk. 2 out of 3 falls match, Luke Brown and Red McKim defeated Mr. Ota and Mr. Ito. How about a tag team title change for the NWA Detroit territory in Detroit on March 21st, 1970, as the Texas Outlaw teams of Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch won the NWA Detroit tag team titles from Ben Justice and the Stomper Guy Mitchell. March 21st, 1970, San Bernardino, California. Bavarian Boy Rudy defeated the Convict by disqualification. And the Convict is a very early version of Jim Duggan. Tony Rocco defeats Art Mahalik. Jamaica Kid and Cowboy Bradley defeats Billy the Kid and Frenchy Lamont. And Pacific Coast champion La Pantera Negra defeats Don Carson. March 21st, 1970, Atlanta, Georgia TV. Again, this is Atlanta TV. Joe Scarpa, of course, we talked about as Chief J Strongbow, defeats Alex Perez. Alberto Torres defeats Assassin 2, Tom Renesto by disqualification. And Buddy Colt defeats Pedro Valdez. Also, Tampa, Florida television on March 21st. Dick Steinborn, Sabu Singh, and Louis Tilley fought a draw with Aldo Bogny, Bronco Lubitsch, and Chris Markoff. Jack Welch defeated Frank Hickey. Vittorio Apollo, Argentina Apollo defeats Dr. Blood. Jose Azari and Al Velasco team up to defeat Carl Krauser and Skull von Stroheim. Let's do one more TV show. Let's do the AWAs in Minneapolis. Tag team champions Butcher and Mad Dog Vachon defeats Bob Brunel and Bill Howard. Pepper Gomez defeated Kenny J. Red Bastien defeated Angel Rivera. Santiago Acosta defeated Black Jack Alonzo by disqualification. Vern Gagne, the AWA champion, defeats Bill Christian. And Edward Carpentier defeats Buddy Smith. March 21st, 1970 in Lakeland, Florida. Boxing match. Louis Tilley defeats Chris Markoff. Mad Mountain Mike teams up with Dick Steinborn to defeat Aldo Bogny and Dr. Blood. Jack Welch defeats Dr. Blood. Fran Gravett defeats Sandy Parker. And Sabu Singh, Invader 1, defeats Carl Krauser. And we're going to finish up March 21st, 1970 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Fabulous Moolah and Tony Rose fought a draw with Kathy O'Day and Vicky Williams. Joe Turco and beat Jean Dubois. Professor Toru Tanaka defeats Eric the Red. Waldo Von Erich defeats Victor Rivera by countout. And Mario Milano teamed up with the great Bruno Sammartino to defeat Karl Kovacs and Killer Kowalski. There we go. That was March 15th, 1970 through March 21st, 1970. Episode 12 next week. We'll finish up March 1970. That will be 3 months of wrestling history that I've gone over in this wrestling timeline. 2 days from now, you'll see Wrestling 80 start popping up, and there was a little bit of an issue with the last episode of Wrestling 80 on BitChute, and it didn't load the cover that I wanted for it. However, I got the fourth one finally loaded, and I don't have to redo it, so everything's all go for Tuesday's edition. Of course, as always, there will be a triple main event, though I haven't really decided what direction I want to go with it yet. So once again, I do want to thank all my new subscribers. I do have a new one on YouTube from my, again, Legendary Heroes of Wrestling group on Facebook, and I appreciate you so much for that. Again, I feel this is such an important timeline podcast to do down the line. Yes, it is, I do it off my phone. It looks kind of amateurish, but I'm starting from the bottom. As I get successful, as I get more subscribers, as I get more views, this will be better and better podcast because there is nobody else offering this kind of wrestling information who's really at this point trying to promote old school wrestling. I'm not trying to plagiarize anybody's videos. All I'm trying to do is share a timeline. I'm not showing 1986 on a 1980 podcast. I'm trying to stick as closely to a wrestling timeline format as I can. That's why the older stuff that I use at this point on Wrestling 80 is around 1979. The only time that I'll do any adjustments is when I do my triple main event, and that is if I'm trying to either tribute somebody as I've done with Kamala or Bob Armstrong, or in the case last week where I used Dick the Bruiser because I live in Indiana and I figured it would be a good time, and I had a lot of matches that matched up for him right there. So, Tuesday, I'll see you for the Wrestling 80 podcast. I continue to thank you for your support and your subscribes and your likes, and please support this podcast as I continue to make it better and better. Thank you very much. My name is Sabu Steve Dogosh. Until next week, see you Tuesday.